Thank you very much. Mr. Lieu.
Thank you, Chairman McGovern and Ranking Member Cole for holding this Members' Day and for all the Members Committee for your time. I'm going to talk about two subjects. The first is my proposal on inherent contempt, and the second is about the MTR. Inherent contempt is a power that the House of Representatives already has. The Supreme Court has repeatedly upheld this power. Congress has repeatedly used it in the past. My proposal simply puts in procedures in the House rules to let us execute this power. Specifically, inherent contempt gives us the ability to enforce congressional subpoenas. And in my proposal, it does that through the imposition of a fine for witnesses who do not comply with congressional subpoenas. And this is not a partisan issue. We have seen Congress over time cede way too much of our power to the administrative and executive agencies and to the executive branch. Both Democratic and Republican administrations have thumbed their noses at congressional oversight, although I have to say the Trump administration has done it way more than other administrations. And what this rule change does is it provides witnesses in this process. So, for example, it creates a process for dialogue between the witness and the committee. It puts in procedures for the witness to lodge objections. It puts in procedures for the administration to lodge privilege objections. The witness to negotiate, but at some point it allows the committee to then forward a resolution to the House floor where the chairman of the committee will present and then members can ask questions. And at some point it allows the House to vote on an imposition of a fine. And if that passes by a majority vote, then the witness will in fact be fined in the first increment of up to $25,000. But again, before that can be imposed, it puts in another 20-day delay for negotiations to continue. So there are numerous due process protections for witnesses, for the administration. But at the end of the day, if the administration or a private witness is going to simply not comply with the congressional subpoena, then the full House can impose a fine of up to $25,000 in the first increment. And if it continues, then we can impose a fine of up to $100,000 at the end of the day. So that's my proposal. And it's, again, also not partisan in a sense that I fully believe Joe Biden's going to win in November. And I think many of you do as well. This would apply to the Biden administration. And so I would seek favorable consideration of this proposal. And then I'd like to talk about the motion to recommit. First of all, it's just a stupid way to govern. What does this process do? It literally hides language from the members of Congress, and then the language is dropped in and gives us about 15 minutes to cast a vote. That is not really governing. That's called a game. That's what makes the American people hate us, that we play these games. And it was wrong when we did it to you. It was wrong when the Democrats were in a minority and we did this to the Republicans. It's wrong that you do it to us. This is not to actually substantively influence legislation. This is simply to play games on the taxpayer's dime. That's what makes it so offensive. And I also reject the notion that somehow this is the ability for the minority party to speak. It is not. The minority party has numerous ways to influence legislation. You get to participate in committees. You get to introduce amendments in committees. And then when the bill leaves the committee, you get to introduce amendments in the Rules Committee. If, in fact, there's a problem with a bill that's about to be voted on the floor, then what happens is the whole purpose, or one of the purposes of your committee that you're on, the Rules Committee, is to allow amendments to that bill. And then the minority party gets to speak about the bill on the House floor. The minority party can go to the press. There's so many ways to influence legislation. The MTR is not designed to do that. And in practice, it doesn't even do that. None of the MTR proposals are real or actual substantive changes. They're just designed to be gotcha moments for the members of Congress. And again, this is a procedure where literally the language is hidden from the vast majority of the members of Congress, and then we're asked to vote on it. We just have to get rid of motion to recommit, stop playing these games on taxpayers' dime. It doesn't make any sense to continue any form of motion to recommit. We should not be playing these games. We should be trying to actually make substantive legislation and not do an end round around the Rules Committee. With that, I yield back.